All right. This is very important in my estimation. And so we will get the real story from the real deal. And before we talk football, I always remind you the best place to get geared up with Canes or Dolphins merch this season is Caneswear in Davie or online at caneswear.com. Alex Donno, he's on the Toyota of Hollywood hotline. He is the host of the Locked On Canes podcast, which you can hear anywhere. And he hosts our Canes postgame coverage. And this guy knows more about the Canes and the ACC than just about anyone I know. So what are the chances, Dono, that the Hurricanes actually play in the ACC championship game?
All right, so before I get into the scenarios, which I have written down because they're incredibly confusing, the FanDuel Sportsbook is giving Miami an 8.5% chance to make it to the ACC championship game. But in ACC terms, 8.5% might as well be 85% because you expect chaos in that conference, right? I mean, Georgia Tech has controlled their own destiny at times this year. Virginia, SMU was like out of it a few weeks ago, and now they're in it. So the only two teams that actually control their own destiny this Saturday are Virginia and SMU. So if they both win, that's your ACC championship game, and I'm sure they would set ratings records for that one, Virginia versus SMU. As far as Miami goes, here are, from what I understand, the four scenarios that would see Miami play for an ACC championship game. Obviously, you have to beat Pittsburgh. That's non-negotiable, but you need a bunch of other stuff to happen. So the first scenario is SMU wins, and they play against Cal, who Cal just fired their coach, and SMU's favored by 10.5 points. So if SMU wins, Duke would also have to lose against Wake Forest, and Virginia would have to lose against Virginia Tech. So that's one scenario. Now, Virginia is a lot better than Virginia Tech, but keep in mind, Virginia Tech has beaten them, I think, 9 out of the last 10 meetings. So, it's the ACC, it's a rivalry, anything can happen there. Scenario 2 would be the Duke Blue Devils win, and SMU and Virginia both lose. And in that scenario, Miami would face Duke in the ACC championship game. You would get Mario versus Manny round 2. Scenario 3 would be if Virginia wins against Virginia Tech and Duke and SMU both lose, then Miami would face Virginia in the ACC championship game. And then scenario number 4 would be Duke, SMU, and Virginia all lose their games this weekend. And I'm not even sure who Miami would play maybe Georgia Tech in that championship scenario, but Miami would get in any of those 4 scenarios, in the words of Lloyd Christmas. So you're telling me there's a chance?
Dono, as I'm watching you, and I know you personally, and I'm seeing your UM shirt behind you, all the UM stuff, I don't know if I'm going to get a right answer on this, but you're talking about SMU, Duke, Virginia Tech. You're giving us the scenario. Is the justified disrespect of the ACC, is it a justified disrespect? Because those aren't very impressive teams, bro.
It's absolutely justified. And because you think about it, Miami, at least Miami's kind of close to being like a really good team, but Clemson was supposed to be a playoff team this year. Clemson odds-on favorite to win the ACC. Clemson's bad this year. Florida State, they blew out Alabama week 1. Like, you thought, hey, maybe Florida State's good again this year. They've been terrible. So, yeah, Crowder, when you're talking about a conference where the two teams that control their own destiny are SMU and Duke, and not that I want to disrespect SMU because they snuck into the playoff last year, but it's SMU. Yeah, the ACC hate is completely justified. They've also been pretty bad out of conference this year, the ACC, so it's been a really rough year for the ACC, and I can't really defend it.
But with that being said, Dono, are you not angry the way I'm angry watching Louis Riddick bring up a million times during the broadcast that this isn't an impressive victory? The graphic after the game on ESPN is that Miami survives at Virginia Tech. The bottom line on ESPN after they're showing just the ticker that the Hurricanes beat Virginia Tech 34-17, they know they let you know underneath only the second time Miami played a game outside of the state of Florida, which makes no sense for the ticker. Like, why are you even adding that in there? It does seem like the standards of victory and the standards of what makes a good victory, an impressive victory, are different when talking about the Miami Hurricanes.
Yeah, and in that same note, like I was watching later that night, Utah like needing multiple miracles to beat a bad Kansas State team, and the teams combined to score 100 points, and there was no defense. And I didn't hear that. Utah has been ranked in front of Miami in the CFP ranking. I didn't hear any of that. Like I didn't hear anybody saying Utah survived a scare. I heard, wow, look at that gutsy win by Utah. That's what playoff teams are made of. So the narrative is ridiculous. And you mentioned that thing where ESPN actually put on their crawl and on their headline, Miami survives scare. Miami was up by 2 or 3 scores for 43 out of 60 minutes in that game. And if you go by the live ESPN win percentage, I don't think it was ever below 95% in the second half. So surviving a scare, it sounds to me like they're trying to shape a narrative.
What about Pitt on Saturday? Does anything about this game make you nervous? Because you said we went through every scenario, but you said this all starts with the Hurricanes have to handle their business against Pitt. And we know from the past games like that, this is not a cakewalk.
It's not. Pitt is a really good football team. I actually, no outcome would surprise me. I was actually a little surprised, though, to see Miami favored by 6.5 points on the road for this game. I thought that'd be more of like a 3.5, 4.5 point type of deal. Pitt is legit, and Georgia Tech's defense has been really bad. That's not new for them. But they put up a ton of rushing yards against Georgia Tech, and that was without Des Reed. Like Desmond Reed is their top player. He's sort of like their version of Malachi Toney. They line him up everywhere. He's a matchup nightmare, and they essentially were resting him to play against Miami. So I assume Reed is going to play this week. He's a type of guy you have to game plan against. Pitt has a really solid defense. Their linebackers are always good under Narduzzi. Their defensive line is pretty good. This is one of those things where, if Miami plays the way that they've been playing for the better part of these last 3 victories, you should be able to go in there and get the win because you do have more talent, and you're getting some reinforcements back. We should be able to have David Blay back in the interior of the defensive line, and O.J. Frederic should be back, and C.J. Daniels should be back at receiver. The thing that I want Miami to exploit, the fact that Pitt does have a true freshman starting quarterback, where he's been able to beat up on the bad defenses, but when he's gone up against better defenses like Notre Dame, you get more of the deer in the headlights type of thing. So I need Miami to pressure Mason Heinzel, I should say. And then something about Pitt that I think is notable for this game. When we saw, for example, when Miami lost to Louisville, one of the big reasons why they lost that game was the Louisville coach, Jeff Brom, he got super creative. Like he knew we're not just going to beat this team if we line them up. I need to put 3 quarterbacks on the field at once. I need to throw the kitchen sink at these guys. That was the way Jeff Brom approached it. You never see that from Pat Narduzzi, the Pitt coach. Like Narduzzi is a little bit more, he's got more of that Mario Cristobal style mentality where no matter who he's playing against, he's just going to want to line it up and try to win the individual matchups. And I don't think that's how, if you're the less talented team, I don't think that's how you should approach Miami. Maybe he does it differently, but I think Narduzzi's just going to line him up and try to win the game straightforward. I think if they threw the kitchen sink, they'd have a better chance.
And Donno, as you've watched all these games, and it's getting down to the end, that's why we're talking about college football playoffs and percentages. But we knew Mesidor and Bain were going to be good, and they're damn good defensive ends. They can play ball. We assumed Carson Beck would be a Heisman Trophy candidate. He's had ups and downs. We didn't know about the young receivers. There was question marks, and there were solidified guys going into the season. Who has surprised you either way? What group or person has surprised you positively and negatively as you watch a lot of football? The Canes, watching the Canes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like if I want to start with the negatively, there's been a couple guys that I thought would be big parts of the offense that just haven't been. Like Elijah Lofton at tight end, like he's caught touchdowns in the last couple of games, but I thought Lofton would be just, getting 7-8 touches per game and having 100-yard games and multiple touchdown games. He just, for whatever reason, hasn't had the mojo this year. He's had some drops. He's not been targeted nearly as much as you would think. I can't fully explain why. Jordan Lyle at running back, I thought would have like a mega year, Part of the reason why he hasn't has been injury. Like, he missed a big chunk of games early on, injured, and he hasn't really been the same since then. And with Lyle, not having kind of the bust out year, that's given on the positive end. Gerard Pringle, the true freshman running back who's played a lot these last 3 games, he's been excellent. And even though he didn't have a big rushing performance this past weekend, but he did catch a touchdown pass. And then the week before against NC State, he had 100+ yards. He's been a pleasant surprise. Jacoby Thomas in the back end of Miami's secondary, and it sounds like he's going to be able to play this week. He left the last game early. He's been sensational. He had that 2-interception game in the pick 6 game against NC State. He's been awesome. And some of the other outside of Bain and Mesidor, there's been some other good players on the defensive line, like second-year defensive tackle Justin Scott. He's gotten a lot more playing time second half of the year with other guys injured, and he's starting to really look like the 5-star recruit that he was a couple years ago. So there's really been a number of players who have seized their opportunities. And then, of course, Malachi Toney. It's no longer a secret, but that dude is one of the best players in the country.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing what he has done this season, seemingly out of nowhere, because I didn't know till game 1 that, whoa. Because we had talked, I remember going into the season, we're like, they have any weapons? Is there any weapons? I remember that being a narrative. Are there any weapons for Carson Beck? And then all of a sudden you got your eyes opened by Malachi Toney. Alex Donno, you listen to him on Locked On Canes, and there's going to be a lot of hot and heavy action leading up to Saturday. So you say Hard Rock Bet has it at 8%, an 8% chance for the Canes to play in the ACC championship game?
Yeah, 8.5. So you don't want to shortchange the extra 0.5%. That's going to be the difference, the extra half.
Yeah. No, I want that 0.5%. I'm not giving that to anybody for no reason. Finally, are you doing traditional Thanksgiving, Donno? Are you having a turkey and stuffing, or do you do something a little more outside the box, being that you're an Italian?
Yeah, all the above. We have a really big spread. My father is the primary cook for that. There's going to be the traditional stuff, turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes probably, but he does extra. There's usually some kind of a pasta dish. There's usually an additional meat because turkey's very overrated. So there's usually an additional meat, like a roast pork or something. Yeah, there might be some gabagool as well. Yeah, and there's going to be like a shrimp appetizer. There's going to be a big spread.
Shrimp?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's outside the box.
Saffron shrimp is one of his specialties.
Saffron shrimp.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a warm shrimp dish?
It's a warm shrimp dish. And usually it's served inside a puff pastry.
Wow. I love a puff pastry. Who doesn't love a puff pastry?
Oh, saffron's one of the most expensive seasonings in the world.
Is that so?
Well, it is so, but so my father, he goes to Italy every year, and he stocks up on saffron there because it's cheaper in Europe for some reason, and he has a small suitcase that's basically full of saffron and other food items that he brings back with him.
I've seen that show, To Catch a Smuggler.
Yeah.
Right. This guy, and they go into the room. This guy had 40 pounds of gabagool and 68 bottles of saffron. And we're trying to get a hold of a family member to see if there's something going on. Donno, thank you as always. We appreciate your insight with the Hurricanes, and we appreciate the time. And happy Thanksgiving to you, pal.
Happy Thanksgiving, and I'm going to try to have those scenarios straight because I don't know who to root for and who against this Saturday.
There's way too many moving parts for me.
Yeah.
I'm speaking for me and me only. There's way too many moving parts.
No, for me as well.
I'm just going to have to follow you on Twitter and see after the game is I'm just worried about the Canes beating Pitt. Let the Canes beat Pitt, and then I'll start trying to figure out what's going on after that. Is there any scenario, by the way, where Notre Dame should be placed ahead of Miami in the college football playoffs?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, my Twitter timeline is just full of people with shamrock emojis in their descriptions, arguing with me all day. But it's at the end of the day, shouldn't head-to-head, when you have the same record, head-to-head should be the first tiebreaker. I don't get it.
Seems like it. All right, Alex Donno, we appreciate it, Donno.
See ya.